Episode 1, General Introduction to the Field of Practical Anthropology. Welcome to the AnthroGuy, where we put the power of cultural anthropology to work, enabling you to understand and change your world for the better. Let's start with some basic explanations. Cultural anthropology is the study of people and their cultures. Cultures are sets of guidelines and rules, plus a system of beliefs. When we think of a field that is focused totally on us and upon our culture, how can that not be a benefit? Surely after so many years of study, anthropologists have uncovered many things that can serve the individual, the group, and our society. And they have. Benefit leads to success, and success to profit. So in principle, at least, we should be on the right track. Practical anthropology is the process of getting useful benefits out of all this hard work, using what we have learned in meaningful and helpful ways. You may ask, what can practical anthropology do for me and for my organization? Practical anthropology can make some confusing issues easy to understand. It allows you to see things that others cannot, and enables you to do some things in very clever ways. It is good for the individual, but it really shows its power in the group or organization. The larger, the better. We will explain terms later, but just to let you know that AIR stands for Anthroculture Imprint Revolution, and it is a key concept in practical anthropology. So you may ask, how much power are we talking about? Well, you might want to sit down first before you hear the answer. The first example is one of being AIR aware, aka seeing the cultural beliefs around you. It has to do with Mr. Steve Jobs and his talents and efforts in the computer business, commonly known as Apple Computer. It turns out that Mr. Jobs and his travels to India, his embrace of Buddhism and alternative lifestyles enabled him to become a sort of do-it-yourself anthropologist. This insight, along with a few basic concepts in marketing and technology, enabled his success. An important part of this was the fact that Mr. Jobs saw things that are normally hidden from us. We call this being AIR aware. It is a natural byproduct of studying other cultures. The second example is one of AIR management, aka cultural belief modification, a very slight change in the core belief system of a population. Everyone has seen these pyramids, and in particular the Great Giza Pyramid, the largest one ever built, and for the pharaoh Khufu. It seems like Mr. Khufu and his management team did not want the fuss of slave labor to build these things, nor the risk of upsetting the population with high taxes. So they and their ancestors before them came up with a rather clever scheme. They got everyone to believe that in order for anyone to have a good afterlife in their kingdom, Mr. Khufu would need this thing built. So the belief was that Mr. Khufu and this pile of stones would enable everyone else's happy afterlife. Since no one in the kingdom wanted to take this risk, they said, what the heck, let's pile up some rocks for a leader. Let's even have some fun at the same time by competing with other teams, and let's get this thing over with. Both examples stem from the power of practical anthropology. It is our firm belief that neither Apple Computer nor the pyramids would be around today without the use of practical anthropology. Of course, neither Mr. Jobs nor Mr. Khufu would have used this terminology, but they would have surely agreed with the concepts that they employed. While practical anthropology is not well known, it has been in use for a long time, about 50,000 years now. And currently it is practiced by large, well-known religious institutions, states, and organizations. So how does one learn practical anthropology? there are some basic terms that we need to understand. These are just a few special words so we can be clear without having to explain the concept every time. Then some basic concepts, theory, and principles. Then there is the part about picking up some general anthropology in order to obtain cultural awareness. That is, being air aware. The basics of practical anthropology. When it comes to people, we are not talking about physical sciences or mathematics. To study people, we need to accept that things are statistical. So, 1 + 1 can equal 3 sometimes, and we are not going to get upset about the fact. But if we discover that 1 + 1 is commonly equal to 3, then that tells us our principles are probably wrong. Mr. Charles Darwin is a key concept and a major driving force in anthropology. If a group of people all died without leaving any children behind, then they have received a Darwin Award. This means that their DNA and their culture are now gone. It might have been bad luck, some aspect of their genetics, or an inappropriate belief system. In general, stronger groups displace weaker groups. Unfortunately for us, stronger does not necessarily mean better. We are generally interested in things that are close to reality. Some people call this thing the truth. While it would be wonderful to have such a thing, we find that it is often not possible to reach it. Therefore, we are happy to strive for truthy, which means as close as we can reasonably get to the truth and also have the key characteristics of what we believe to be true. But of course, we might still be wrong. That's just the nature of people. Practical anthropology is largely focused upon the cultural belief systems that we have, some basic psychology, group behavior, and the various faults and defects in human thinking, areas that are not well addressed in other fields of study. Anthropologists need to be guided by ethics and have an unbiased, non-judging view of the people and groups that they study. Belief systems are generally just pure fiction. This means that my fairy tale is not better than your fairy tale. Unfortunately, my brain wants me to be attached to my fairy tale, my belief system, and I am tempted to look down upon your different belief system. I might even make the error of wanting to hit you on the head for not accepting my belief system. That would be sad. In fact, we need to reach back far in history and look to other cultures to discuss practical anthropology. Otherwise, we would risk offending people. But it will be at times necessary to tackle some issues head-on, which possibly means offensive content. This is an information-based approach and not an emotional-based program. Practical anthropologists know that emotional-based approaches are much more effective. Nevertheless, at times, even with our info-based presentation, we might be tempted to include some emotional content. A brief cultural history and the reason for air. Everyone knows about evolution and Darwin. Species evolve to enhance their fitness. This, of course, takes time. But nature, or if you like some other force, came up with sexual reproduction, and this enabled the process of evolution to work faster and better. To speed the process up even further, species came up with adaptive systems. Muscles get stronger when they are used more, and the same with skin, bones, and other body parts. If muscles do not need to be so strong, then they are not. But if needed with a bit of a delay, muscle strength can be increased. A clever adaptation. We humans belong to a group of primates that are called the Great Apes. Our strategy, among other things, was to evolve a massive brain that provided unparalleled adaptability. Why wait for Darwin and his evolution to kick in when our primate mind could just come up with a new strategy in a blink of an eye? It was the last word in fitness and survival. Or was it? You mean there can be something better than in a blink of an eye? The answer is yes. It was the Anthroculture Imprint Revolution, AIR, and we can date this event, sort of. This event occurred between 50 and 100,000 years ago. Most likely earlier human ancestors had some air from very long ago, but a critical event took place in the 50,000 to 100,000 year range, and we can see this in the archaeological record. Our not-so-big brain. It is a fact that we have big brains compared with other animals. People can do a lot of thinking and problem solving, but it turns out that our world is so incredibly complex in relation to these immense problems. Our brains are by far not big enough. The solution is to divide and conquer issues. Get a group of specialists working on different aspects of a problem, and this combination of thinking and step-by-step problem solving will often achieve the results that we want. There is only the challenge of getting large numbers of people to work together, and this is where AIR came in to help us. AIR is the printing press of ideas, the glue that binds groups together and allows group activities. In the next episode, we will look at the 3 levels of AIR management, the concept of good and bad AIR, and the issue of natural versus managed AIR. Hope to see you then. Goodbye from the AnthroGuy.